Howdy, everyone. So here's the plan. I have 45 minutes, and I do have to go after 45 minutes because, believe it or not, I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. So this is my world. When you deal with business in America, 10 o'clock our time is noon back home for me. So I have a meeting with I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. So we need to get going. What I plan to do is just go over the basic information of, I'm going to do it chapter by chapter. And if there's anything that you have questions on, this is your time to ask. I'm not planning on reteaching the entire course tonight. I'm simply going to cover what I can of what I think is important enough that you need to know, okay? This does not mean, because of how the test bank works, this does not mean that everything I cover is the only things that could be on a test. That's not how this works. But anyhow, let's just go. Chapter 1 is all about the introduction to management. And so we talked about organization performance, importance and goals. We got into the terms effective, efficient, and productivity. To be effective means you're doing the right thing. To be efficient means you're either doing it quickly or you're using less of a resource. And to be productive is basically a combination of being effective and efficient. I can guarantee you the 4 functions of management is going to be on the test. That I can guarantee you. That you need to know: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. That will be on the test. In a discussion of the 4 functions of how it applies to your life, that's just to make things easier for you to understand things. Mintzberg managerial roles. So here's something I want you to actually think about this for a minute here. All of these roles that we talked about, being interpersonal roles, being informational, all these things we talked about are going to be multiple choice questions, not multiple choice questions. Are not going to be like essay questions. So the way you understand something that is a multiple choice test is different than how you have to understand it for an essay test. So all you need to do for a multiple choice test is be able to recognize the word compared to another word. So if for example, you have a question that says go between, you know that it should, of these list of words here, I would hope that you would know that it is a liaison. So, in the discussion, we talked about why management is shown as a pyramid. And again, I don't see, these are things where it's just, I don't know what you have questions on. If I were in a normal classroom, I'd be showing the management as a pyramid and asking you, do you understand this? I don't know what questions you have. But the terms you need to understand are things like chain of command, this one here. I gave the story, I talked about the difference between conceptual skills, people skills, and human skills. They mean the same thing, and technical skills. I talked about all those. Knowing that top management needs conceptual skills the most, and that lower levels of management need technical skills the most. Yeah, I said that right. The importance of core competencies and competitive advantage. Every company has core competencies, the things they do well. And those core competencies usually turn into a competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is what you do better than your competitors. We talked about innovation and entrepreneurship. To be innovative, the words innovation and entrepreneurship mean the same thing. They mean coming up with new ideas, new ways of doing things. That's it. Empowerment. To be empowered means that you are, your boss says, hey, do it however you want to do it. We support you. That's empowerment. Yeah, we talked about global crisis management. I don't see much on that. Benchmarking. you know, understanding benchmarking is important, but I don't even know that there's even going to be a question on the test about that. So I think you got that one easy. And you know what a department is. I don't think you should need to know that. So, can you send this doc for us? Have you not already received it? I sent it already. You do not have this document? I mean, that's a serious question. Do you not have this document? Okay. I can send it again. It's not a problem, but I know I've sent it. Okay. No, don't be up. I'm not, it's fine. But are there any questions you have for chapter one? Is there any, I'm very happy to answer any questions. I've taught this course more than 100 times at UAU. So for me, I can do this course in my sleep. But I know that you guys are seeing a lot of this for the first time. So tell me what is not clear to you that you're like, do we need to know X? And don't say, do we need to know? If you ask something that I know is not terribly important, I promise I won't waste your time by explaining it long. So chapter two gets into the history of management. And probably the biggest thing you need to know here, I am gonna give you one here that I really want you to know and understand. And that is that where my very first video on the history of management, that it was the Industrial Revolution that caused the need for management. Okay? More than 200 years ago, there was no need to have management as a science, as studying something. It is because of the Industrial Revolution that we actually need to have management at all. So Frederick Taylor is part of scientific management. Yeah, I didn't like Frederick Taylor. So it's kind of funny, doing these videos made me realize who I like and who I don't like in the history of management. Frederick Taylor was just not a good man. That's why I wrote the word ambivalence. It just means I have mixed feelings about him. My favorite couple, hands down, was Frank and Lillian Gilbreth, and I think you'll get a question on them. And it's just the thing that they did is they just did motion studies. Okay, motion studies is where they studied the motions. His famous one was the bricklayer. Okay, it's just a great story, and Frank believed everything could be done more efficiently, and so I find that interesting. The guy who really is the father of modern management is a French guy by the name of Henri Faye, and I talked about him a lot. And yeah, and again, even the same thing as with Mintzberg, there's those 14 principles. But when you look at these 14 principles, when you look at these things here, the questions you could possibly get on them are not it's multiple choice. It's not an essay. You're not going to be asked, list the 14 principles. So it's your ability to see it and know what it means. I hope that makes sense. The way you study for a multiple choice test is different than how you study for an essay test. Max Weber, he was the lots of rules guy. This is the German guy, Max Weber, and he's the guy who I label as no WASTA, because he believed in fairness, lots of rules, and he thought WASTA was a bad idea. I just heard my refrigerator kick in, so I want to shut that off. Okay. And everything else in the history of management, you know, I did spend some time talking about the Hawthorn Effect, the Hawthorn studies. Mary Parker Follett, her contribution is the fact that you have to care about your workers. What a concept. Oh, I know that I hit synergy a couple times. Just anytime that you see something where 1 + 1 = 3, when two parts of a company come together to work together and can do something better than they could separately, anytime you see something combined, that's what synergy is. something combined being better than the sum of the parts, okay? So the example I used on that was the fact that Sheikh Zayed obviously believed in synergy in the creation of the UAE. So are there any questions you have on chapter 2? Codependent. Codependent. Where's codependent? Codependent? Honestly, I mean, codependent is a psychology term. If I used it in here, I apologize. So, yeah, codependence is not. When you take psychology, you need to know codependence, but not for my class. Chapter 3. And again, if you come up with a question that you have, you can type it out. If you don't get it in while I'm talking about it, I'll take questions at the end. I just want to make sure I get through everything before, you know. So anyhow, I'm here till 9:45 either way. Chapter 3: values, attitudes, emotions, and culture. The manager as a person. So this is, you know, the book has a love affair with the big 5 personality traits. I don't. So you might have a question on it, but it'll be one question at most, and I just wouldn't worry about it. Needs theory. So the needs theory says that everything you do to satisfy one of 3 needs: the need for achievement, the need for power, or the need for affiliation. And all that means is that you do something for everything you do for one of those needs. To me, the needs theory is actually pretty easy. Job satisfaction, I said to you, is super important to a company, because employees who are satisfied don't quit, and employees who are not satisfied quit. So that's why I covered why organizational commitment is important, you know. Talked about the importance of organizational culture. Talked about the difference between, see, again, this is a multiple choice test, so I don't know that there's any question that can be, is this a rule or is it culture? See, this is, when you study for a test, you need to think about what kind of test you're taking. And like, rules versus culture is not something I could ask a question on if I tried. Understanding that culture is the accepted ways of doing things, that's important. Understanding that. So that's it for chapter 3. Any questions you have on that? Okay. Chapter 4 on ethics and social responsibility. So ethics, I like my definition of ethics a lot. Ethics is doing the right thing when nobody's watching. I like that definition. The word dilemma, an ethical dilemma, is when you are not sure what is the right thing to do. So, not sure. The term, and so the book goes into 4 different types of rules, the 4 approaches to ethics. And we talked about the utilitarian rule, which was the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That's the belief in utilitarian. There's the justice rule, which is really treat people fair no matter what. Then there's the moral rights. Sorry, the justice rule says you do what's right, period. That's it. And then the moral rights rule, which is really this down here, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. Many? It's supposed to be many, not money. Oh my God, Steve. Sorry about that. It's not needs of the money. That's a funny, okay. Got that corrected, good. And then the 4th rule was the practical rule. And I explained that this is the one that I personally follow. And I like to describe that as, could you explain to grandma? You know, so I gave that example that can you justify what you're doing to your grandmother? That's pretty much what the practical rule is. I like that one. And we talked about the trolley problem. That won't be on the test. Don't worry about it. Transition from ethics to corporate. Yeah, the book, the book talks about ethics, and then it talks about corporate social responsibility, okay? And in social responsibility, there are the examples. Go ahead, Asa.
Yes, doctor. So I am a bit confused about the difference between stockholders and shareholders. Can you
Okay.
help?
No, I'll cover that right now. So a stakeholder, I'll type it out here so you can see it. A stakeholder is anyone affected by a company, period. You and I are stakeholders in UAU. We're affected by UAU, okay? So stakeholder just means anyone affected by an organization. Halas, that's it, okay? The term shareholder and stockholder mean exactly the same thing. And if you're a shareholder or a stockholder, it means you are a part owner of the company. So if you want to buy stock in Apple, you can buy stock in Apple. Okay? So I hope that's not confusing. The words sound similar, and so people get them confused, but it's just, yeah. Okay? Of the four approaches, I don't know that you're going to have any particular question on any one of the, I don't know. There are some multiple choice questions, but for
So,
multiple
doctor,
choice on this,
excuse me, doctor.
yes.
So, doctor, if I understand you correctly, a shareholder is you own this part of a company, but a stockholder, others own this
No,
part of.
no, I apologize.
Oh,
I'll do it. Let me show it to you this way. Shareholders equal stockholders. They mean exactly the same thing. No difference. Zero difference. Some books use the word shareholders. Some books use the word stockholders. It means exactly the same thing.
so it doesn't matter if you got confused between them?
Not at all, because it means exactly the same thing. You know, means the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. In social responsibility, my promise to you is that if you get a question on social responsibility, which I'm not sure you will, but it's either going to be a company that's really, really good, which means it's proactive, or it's going to be a company that's really, really bad, which means it's obstruction. Okay? Because explaining the ones in between are hard. So, yeah, it's either going to be a company that's really good or a company that's really bad. I'm making it easier for you. Yay. Managing diversity, we talked, chapter 5, chapter 5 is hard to write multiple choice questions for. So yeah, we talked about the two different types of sexual harassment. We talked about the importance of diversity. We talked about religious accommodation. I remember that, you know, anyhow, we talked about these things, but there isn't going to be much from chapter 5 on anything because there just isn't much there. Chapter 6 on globalization. I don't know what to tell you on this. See, again, these are all things that I've covered 8,000 times myself, so I'm not sure what to tell you. One of the things that I don't feel like I covered well enough in the videos, I just want to make sure you do know, is this Hofstede's model of national culture. And he talks about that and he talked about there's 5 different dimensions of national culture, but the one I wanted to, the two I wanted to bring up is the difference between individualism and collectivism, this one. And because this is one that I think is an interesting difference between the UAE and, well, definitely the UAE versus my culture. So the UAE very much has a collectivism culture, meaning that here people view things, people in the UAE view things as doing what's in the interest of society, Whereas, unfortunately, I come from a place where it's very individualistic, and there's some good to it, but this pandemic is showing why it's not good. It's because there are a good 40% of the people in my country who absolutely refuse to wear a mask ever. And I don't get it. I love my country, but I have no idea why they do that. But it's all rooted in just how individualism, the strength of individualism we have in America. Yeah, and also my fellow Americans can be really stupid. Is this going on video? Oh, it is. Okay, fine. Power distance. Power distance, the other one I think is interesting because you definitely see that here. There's a power distance is the respect you have for somebody that leads you to act differently around them. Okay, so there's a power difference between you and your professors. Some of you are comfortable talking with me and some of you are not comfortable at all. That's power distance, okay? Some cultures have greater power distance than other cultures. So in this culture, within the UAE, if you take the culture of the UAE actually ranks very high on power distance. And part of it is wealth, where you have wealthy people and very poor people. Part of it is there, but it's also just a cultural thing that you have. Power distance is yeah. Anyhow, it's interesting, but not worth talking that much more about. Yeah, that's it for chapter 6. So any questions you have on the material up through chapter 6, because pretty much from chapter 6, everything else that I covered is my material, not from the book. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So the next thing I covered was decision making. Go ahead, Asa.
Is power distance considered as a good thing or not?
No, it's neither good nor bad. Just as okay. No, that's a good question. I appreciate the question. Individualism. Let me take the individualism versus collectivism. So there are some Americans who would argue with me that that say individualism is wonderful because individualism gives you a reason to fight for what you want, and you're in it for yourself, and by being in it for yourself, that's going to make the world a better place because you're all trying to do the best thing for you. Okay. That's a belief. And I have many friends who believe that. And I have many friends who think that anything the government does to help you is wrong. Okay. If you believe in collectivism, then you believe that we're a society, and as a society, you need to do things to protect your people. Okay. That's two different ways of looking at things. And I can see both sides on that. But the US is very strong on individualism, and the UAE is very strong on collectivism. It is what it is. On the difference of power distance.
Is it good or bad?
No, you're never going to get me to answer that question because I don't believe in good or bad on this. Okay, I don't. This is for you to decide. Remember in the video for those of you who watch The Good Place, I am Chidi. I can see the good and bad in everything. So if you're going to ask me whether something is good or bad, then you better be ready to listen to me for an hour and talk about what's good and bad. So, moving on to decision making. Do you have another question, Asa? Or okay.
Continue, doctor.
Thank you. So in decision making, I did cover some of the terms that Herbert Simon talked about. So Asa, please let me get through this, okay? So bounded rationality is the idea that everybody has a certain limit that our brain can take. So when you're studying, please do me this favor. When you're studying for your finals, Don't stay up the night before the test and stay up all night studying. It gives you no value, okay? Because everybody has a limit in what their brain can handle. You are much better off studying for all of your subjects over the next couple of days for an hour or two, and that's it. Don't go for a long time. I'll go back to sharing in a minute here, but let me just cover a few more terms, and then I will take questions, okay? So he talked about satisficing. I love this term, so I hope it's on your test because I love this term. Satisficing is the idea that most decisions in life do not need a perfect answer. And that's true. You know, there are some decisions where you need to have a perfect answer, but most decisions in life, nah, you don't need a perfect answer. You just need something that's acceptable. When you decide where to go eat, you're not going to spend an hour deciding where to go eat. It's not worth it. I talked about the fact that group decision making is better than individual decision making. I talked about groupthink. That is the just agree. Let's all just agree. I talked about brainstorming. Brainstorming is when you encourage people to give as many ideas as possible. Yeah, I gave you the story of SAFE. Hopefully that made sense. We also, okay, so any questions on decision making? I'll take questions now on decision making. I'm confused about the structure of the decision-making steps. Yeah, because I screwed up in the video, so don't worry. You're not going to have to recreate the decision-making problem on the test. Don't worry about it. Okay, so that's a good. Is safe story important? I don't know. If it helps you understand decision-making, I don't know. I'll tell you what. On the quiz the other night. The thing that was most missed on the quiz, let me go back to sharing. The thing that was most missed on the quiz, which kind of surprised me. This is what was most missed on the quiz. Critical success factors was the most missed test question from the quiz on Monday night, last night. When was the quiz? Everything blends together for me. The most missed item was critical success factors. And so I want to explain it just one more time, because I don't know if it's going to be on your test, but it's kind of important to me that you understand this. Critical success factors are the things that it has to have these elements or it's not a successful solution. Okay? So if somebody says, I have a fantastic idea, you know, if we do this, it's going to be lots of fun, but they tell you it's going to cost $1 million dirhams, then it's probably not a great idea, unless you'd like throwing away $1 million dirhams. You know what I mean? So critical success factors are those things. The solution has to have these elements, and if it doesn't have it, it's not a good solution. So when I covered this, I said time and money are always critical success factors. Because if you take too long to solve the problem or it costs too much money, it's not a good solution. In the case of SAFE, I said if he gets kicked out of the university before you solve the problem, then it's not a good solution. Okay, so that was the most missed item in decision making. So now I'll look at whatever questions you have on decision making. Can you explain devil's advocate? Sure. Devil's advocate is when you point out everything that's bad with an idea with the goal of making it better. Okay? So you're not pointing out what's bad because you're being mean. You're pointing out what's bad because you want to to help the person that you're talking to. The question about implementation, look, because I'm not going to make you actually do a step-by-step anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just understand my point that I made on implementation means how you do it. And implementation means that sometimes that's where the problem comes, is how people implement the decision. So it's a good question. Any other questions on decision making? The story of SAFE, yeah, I mean, I just hope it helps. I hope it helps you understand things. In SWOT analysis, I covered SWOT analysis and strategic management, and I covered a couple of different terms here: mission statement, vision statement. So a mission statement simply explains why a company is in business. That's it. And vision is why you should care. Not hard. In SWOT analysis, you know that SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We had core competencies earlier. We had competitive advantage earlier. So, you know, any questions on SWOT analysis? Okay. That brings me so it says chapter 12, human resource management, but I actually did this 100% outside of the book. So if you understand everything I said in the videos, you're fine for chapter 12, because I didn't use the book at all for chapter 12.
Doctor, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
What do you define as a human resource? What is it? What does it mean? Because you didn't explain it in the first video.
Sure.
I don't know.
No. That's a great question. That's a great question. Thank you, Asa. The term resource means anything of value. We had that in chapter 1. Okay. So the word resource means anything of value. A human resource is the people you employ. That's it. So hopefully the people that work for you have value. If they don't, that's a lot of problems if they don't have value. So
you mean skills by value?
I'm sorry, what?
You mean skills by value?
Well, sure, skills are part of it. No. I think I get your question, but it's a good question. It's just that for UAU, I'm a human resource. Understand? As an employee of the university, I am a human resource. Okay? So what that means is, hopefully I bring more value to the university than they pay me, right? You want your employees to, if you look at, that's okay. I'm just gonna get off the thing here. I'm not trying to go very philosophical on you here, but for what you want for every, what you want is, you want your employees to bring value. So the word resource means anything of value, and hopefully that's, hopefully your human resources bring you value as much as, for UAU, hopefully I bring value as much as this office brings value to the university, or whatever. It's just hopefully your resources bring value. So again, for the human resources chapter, this is the one where I can easily tell you all questions come from the videos, because I covered more than the book did on this one. So is there anything within that you don't know what it is, what it means?
Doctor, the problem is that this chapter is too long.
It is. I know. When I added up all the minutes and I saw it's 100 minutes to go through it all, trust me when I tell you that surprised me. Human resources is huge. So
So how
is
much
HR considered, so that's a great question. Is HR considered staff? And the answer is yes. So yeah, HR is considered staff. Oh, labor relations, don't worry about it. I know I said I was going to cover it, and labor relations, that's a great question, Gaia. The labor relations means, labor relations really at the end means unionization, and unions are illegal in the UAE, so just forget about it. There won't be any question on labor relations. This chapter is so confusing. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Other questions you have on any of this?
Doctor, how much will it come into
Hold on a second. Please let me read the other questions. Doctor, we focus on this chapter. It's too long. I don't know what to tell you. Just watch the videos, and if something is confusing, it is long. I know it's long. I know it's long. I don't know. There's no one thing that I can guarantee you is on the test on this. This is yeah. What do you mean by saying new view is that? Oh, the hopefully I say vital, not virtue. Anyhow, so 15 years ago in this country, people did not view human resources as that important. Okay. Before I came here, so like 2006, 2007, the government actually asked, there was no HR major. There was no major in human resources at UAU. Partly I was brought here to create the human resources major, to do work on the curriculum that is the human resources major. So because 15 years ago, human resources was viewed as the secretary's job, and that's it. And but human resources is actually really important, and doing it right is really important. And so that's why we now have the human resources major. It is considered staff, yeah, because human resources does not have contact with the customer. You have no reason that I can think of that you would ever need to visit the people in the Crescent building who work in human resources. They're very important to me as an employee, but you as a customer never have to go to them. I hope that makes sense. Other questions you have? We have like 7 minutes left because I really have to get ready I have another meeting at 10 o'clock I've got to go for. So.
Hello, doctor. How are you?
I am well. Go ahead.
Doctor, how many questions in final exam?
It's whatever Saeed told you. Did he go with 60 or 65 for multiple choice? I don't know what. I think it's
in 2 hours. Yes.
It's yeah. So what I know what I remember what it is. 60 questions, 60 multiple choice questions, multiple choice true false, worth 0.4 each. I'll type it in the chat so you can see it, so everybody can see it.
Okay.
It is 60 MCQ times 0.4 equals 24 marks. As of right now, the plan is 3 essay questions at 2 marks each equals 6 marks. Did I just sent that to somebody? Sorry, I don't know why I did not send to everybody. Hold on. Okay. So 3 essay questions. So if you add 6 and 24, you get to 30.
All question in 2 hours, yes?
Yep. And yeah. So the multiple choice you'll have 65 minutes to answer. Which
Doctor, why you divide the time in 2 parts? Make it all in 2 hours. All question in 2 hours.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Doctor?
I'm not changing the format of the test. Look.
The time is not enough for multiple choice. 60 question and 65. How I can solve all question?
Well, if you want me to give you more time, then you have the camera and AI on you. So
make it all question in 2 hours. It's better.
nope, not going to happen. So you'll have 65 minutes. You have 65 minutes to answer 60 questions in the multiple choice, and then you'll have the remaining time. You have until the test begins at 3:30, and you'll have until 5:30 to submit your answers on the essay questions. That's it. It's plenty of time. Particularly when there are people who get done with a multiple choice in less than half the time. There will be people, I know this because we did this in the spring, there will be people who will finish the multiple choice in 20 minutes.
20 minutes, this is a doctor, not a student. We'll finish in 20 minutes. 60 question.
Anyhow, the format of the test is not changing, so that's not changing. Period. Okay, 20, I might have been exaggerating. There will be people who will be done by 30 minutes. I guarantee it. The reason I can guarantee that is for your midterm, there were people who were done. There was a person done in, I think, 18 minutes and another person done in 19 minutes, which was less than half the time. So yeah, there will be people done in 30 minutes. It will happen. Yeah. Sir, can you tell us when the participation grades will be uploaded? Yeah, that will be, the participation grades are the last things to be uploaded. Yep, and then you'll have your 1,000.
The stake question, you will put it in email?
The essay questions will be done exactly the way it was done for the quiz.
Okay.
Yep. Can I explain chapter 4? Chapter 4 is all about the ethics. No, is that right? I'm confused. I got to go back up and check myself. Is chapter 4 the ethics chapter? Yeah. Yep. Chapter 4 is the ethics and social responsibility chapter. I don't think there's going to be many questions from this. I mean, you know, again, chapters 1 through 5 you had on the midterm. So of the 60 multiple choice questions, there's only going to be a couple questions from that. Okay. So I mean, I don't want to cover it again because it's just not worth covering again. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm trying to maximize your time. And I've lost the screen. Why have I lost the screen? So, interesting. I can't see you anymore. That's very interesting. I have no idea what I've done. So anyhow, any questions you have, hopefully I can at least pull up the questions. At the moment, I can't even see the questions. How does that happen? Okay, now I can see everything again. How many questions will be from the book? No limits for the, no, okay, so there is no limits for the words for the essay, but don't write more than you need to. Can we have the access to past exams for practice? They do you no good. Because every question for this exam is new. So past exams will do you no good. Can I explain the difference between reliability and validity? Absolutely. The term reliability means if you do something over and over again, you get the same answer. That's reliability. Validity means if you do something, it measures what it's supposed to measure.
Doctor, the final from 30 or 35?
The final is from 30 marks.
Okay.
So, I will have office hours again before Sunday. So I'm not sure, I honestly don't know my schedule for Saturday, but I will do some office hours on Saturday, probably Saturday evening, almost certainly Saturday evening. So if you have additional questions, I will be available Saturday evening to answer any questions. The purpose of this review was to get you to hopefully feel a little more comfortable as you're studying, okay? I wasn't here to reteach the entire semester. I'm just here to hopefully make you feel a little bit more comfortable. And I will have office hours before the final to answer whatever questions you have. And to the high school students who are here, remember your final is different. You're doing things differently. Saeed's worked that all out with you. Yeah, you're on a different schedule because of your finals this week that you had in your classes. So you are on a different schedule. Yeah.
Hi,
So,
I just want to say one thing, which is all your grades out of 65% for the college students, so section 01, 02, and 51, your grades out of 65 are now all available on Blackboard. For the exception of the students who did not take quiz 2 yet, which I'm doing the retake tomorrow. But everyone else, your grades out of 65% are on Blackboard. To calculate this, you simply need to divide whatever your total points are with 10, and you will get your total percentage. For example, if you have a 550, that basically means you got a 55 out of 65. On that end, yeah, that's all I have to share for this review session.
okay. Well, I literally have a meeting in 13 minutes that I'm not prepared for, and I want to be home for that meeting. So it takes me more than 13 minutes to actually get home. So I need to go. Are there any questions you have that I can answer quickly? So. Okay, on that note, I need to go. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.